What is up, everybody? We're back. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, Heather C. So Unexpected, Season 5, Episode 9 has aired. This is part 2 of the podcast, and we have 2 more people to talk about. I just want to say this real quick. I know this is a show about unexpected teenage pregnancy, but we are talking about some pretty serious relationship issues, and I hope you guys are really taking notes to this, because these are children. When you make these comments, guys, make sure that you're aware and compassionate to the fact that we're talking about children and teenagers, and they don't fully know exactly what they're doing. So I don't want anyone to be extra harsh on anyone. Everyone is learning. This is a learning experience for everyone. So let's talk about Emerson and Mason, right? So Erica informs us that Emerson has taken Mateo and she has went to stay with Mason's dad for over a week. No phone calls, no I'm okay, no text, just leaves, because we find out that Erica kind of had a blowing up when she found Mason laying in Emerson's bed, looking in her face and defying her house rules. And we know that Erica and Cy were very, very clear about the house rules. He can stay there. He doesn't have to pay anything. He doesn't have to contribute. He doesn't have any chores. But there's one rule that he has to follow, and that is not sleeping in Emerson's room. And he did not follow that rule. And now we've learned that Mason is no longer allowed in Erica and Cy's home, which is going to make raising a baby very difficult with no help from the father, unless you have to physically go to his house, which, guys, you remember, it's over an hour away. This isn't an easy task to do. Driving over an hour with a baby in the back seat is not an easy task. What do you think is going to happen? How do you feel like this is going to go? Because there's so much tension between the families, right? Ernie feels like Erica is overreacting. Erica feels like Ernie and his wife have a slew of issues and problems, and Emerson doesn't know what she's getting into, and no one seems to be communicating.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a tough situation, because it's like you never want to tell somebody how to parent their kid, even if the person in the outside world is watching it and they're like, I don't know why she's so mad. The damage is already done. She's 18 years old, yada, yada, yada. But the bigger picture is that it's not about how old she is or that they already have a baby. It's the fact that they're living under her roof and these are her rules. That's what it boils down to. The downside of it all is that when your child has their mind made up about something and they're of age to at least kind of fend for themselves, so to speak, now you have this scenario where she wants to move in with the boyfriend.
Yes.
And so where you could have maybe found some type of compromise, which I do think her mom was compromising. I mean,
yeah,
let's be honest. She didn't really want him around much to begin with, but the fact that she was like, he can stay over, he just has to stay in the living room. And then they were in the living room together and she didn't really seem like she had issues with that. No. So maybe they could have bought like some little like mattress thing or a sleeping bag and camped out in the living room as a happy medium, because now she doesn't see her at all. She's at his house, so all her fears are like in her face, because now what happens? So it's like that's the down part of having the defiance of it all. But you know what, I think that they have a great bond and a great relationship. I think that if she does move in with him and she sees how difficult it will be without her mom, she'll realize how good she had it. And I think that she will come to her senses. Plus, her relationship might not be as strong because they're both so young. Moving in together and playing house before you're ready is a whole nother ballpark. So
yeah, you're right.
Moms know best, so you got to listen to her. You might not always like what she's got to say, but they know best.
They do. And I do hope that the tension between Erica and Emerson is calmed a bit, because they were in such a good place. And I don't want this to ruffle any feathers of what they had already started building. All right, so let's talk about Kylan, right? So Kylan has been in labor for quite a while. In this episode, she had been in labor for a full 24 hours. And when she got to the birthing center, she refused to let them check her cervix, and which is a super important part of knowing
like how far along you are.
Yes,
and
how far along you are.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed to know that, because in order to put her in the tub, that is something that needs to be over 6 centimeters dilated. And she wouldn't let them take that measurement. And we don't know if it was her decision or Jason's decision, because we saw a lot of decisions being made by Jason and not Kylan. They would come to Kylan and ask her for permission to do things like put in an IV or take different measures to maybe decrease the pain or increase her odds of going into labor faster. And Jason was unwilling to compromise with any of those decisions. And it brought us to the idea of, and even the midwives also saw it, they said that they're not united. They're not on the same page. It's kind of one person is making the decisions for everyone and not thinking about how it will affect everyone. Or the midwife said it best. She said, there's an opportunity for us to take her out of such a painful state, and he's unwilling to do that. Why would you want her to suffer willingly? You know, why would you want her to suffer just because? And I was really worried about it. And I'm glad that the midwives took control and they asked them to leave and go to the hospital. They actually wanted to have her transported to the hospital by ambulance. Of course, Jason refused. First, he says that he's going to drive her home and tells her she needs to go to sleep because she's not in labor. Finally, Kylan stands up for herself and says, no, you're taking me to the hospital. If you don't take me to the hospital, I will call someone else to take me to the hospital. And they actually get to the hospital. And that was probably the time that everyone could exhale and breathe and feel comfortable knowing that Kylan is in good hands. The doctors and nurses are going to make good decisions and make sure that she's in a good place. But the epidural situation kind of was getting out of hand because the nurses wanted to give her medication and help her, and he was against it. So what do you feel the reasoning is? Because he says that he thinks that the drugs in the baby system is bad. Do you think it's more of a control issue? Do you think it's more of he wants to tell her what she can and can't do? Or do you think that his reasons are valid?
Okay, definitely don't think they're valid. We're just going to put that out there right now. First and foremost, I think that he needed to better educate himself on things. You don't know more than people that went to school to do this for a living. So if a midwife, a nurse, a doctor, a surgeon are telling you something, it would be in your best favor to listen because they actually went to school for this, where I'm not even sure if he graduated yet or not. Is he a senior? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So my thing is that I always thought that he had a brush of being controlling. We saw a lot of it with her parents and everything. This episode was a whole nother level. This was almost child abuse because she's a child. She's 17 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like if you took the scenario and that was your child. And let's say he wasn't the baby's father. He was the actual father. And you see your child like, oh my God, I'm in pain. I'm in pain. Would you take them to the hospital? If their limb was falling off and they were bleeding to death, would you take them to the hospital? Or would you say, put a Band-Aid on it and suck it up? I mean, it's the same difference. She's carrying your child. And this is how I know he wasn't educated, because if something were to happen, if she would have put herself into panic, it's causing her blood pressure to go crazy. That could cause stress on the baby. And he messed up, because if she would have just got an IV, it would have helped control the situation. He could have been there for the birth. And now they're at the hospital where he didn't want to be, all because he was being stubborn. So I am really actually, like, I don't know them from the next person, but as a viewer, I'm upset from what I saw, because for whatever reason, she loves him and she's somehow afraid of him, either him leaving her, the scenario situation. I don't know what it is, but it's like, I don't know why she can't have a voice. It's like that whole thing, your body, your choice. It's the same thing. If she wants an epidural, let her have an epidural. If she wants an IV, and technically they should have stepped in and said, you know what? We need to do this or your baby might not even survive. Because if something happens and she loses the baby for childbirth, then what? That's why I said there's so many risks and stuff. He really, really, really should have paid attention more when they were going over stuff with him on the pros and the cons, what could happen, worst case scenario, because in the end, we just want a healthy baby. We just want the baby, Xavier, to get here, to be born, so that way the mom and the dad could just love him to pieces. How does it matter as long as he's happy and healthy and the mother isn't going through so much stress? You're going to traumatize her. She's never going to want any more kids again.
That's true.
I mean, I don't know. His age is really showing through on this one.
I feel like the idea of him giving her options to make decisions on her own is almost scary for him. And I don't understand why he wants to be in control. It's almost like an abandonment issue that he's had in the past. And we can't really pinpoint it because we don't know him. We've seen him for 15 minutes on a TV show each week. So we don't really know where this is stemming from. But making decisions for her, especially medical decisions, she's 17, those decisions need to be made by her parents. If she can't make that decision on her own, which a lot of 17-year-olds don't really know how to make medical decisions, her parents need to be there. And like we saw in the episode, her parents are super worried and they need to be there. And I'm hoping in the next episodes when he's escorted out of the hospital, her parents do step in and they come and they're there for her so she can be fully supported and the decisions made are in the best interest of her and her baby and their grandbaby, because I feel like they've been iced out, boxed out of the situation. They can't even check on the health and well-being of their daughter. They're getting updates from Jason's mother, who's not even there. So the updates aren't even in real time. All right, guys, that's it for part 2. I'm really worried. We're hoping and praying that Xavier is here and healthy and striving and making good progress in life. And we're hoping that Kylan is also doing well. This has been a very emotional experience for her. The amount of fear that she was in and pain at the same time, I can only imagine how devastating that must be to go through. So blessings and love to Kylan, and hopefully Jason is doing well as well. We did see that there are charges pending with him, and we're hoping that he's able to sort that out and he's still able to be in his child's life. All right, guys, I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, Heather C. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you live tweet with us every Sunday night for Unexpected on TLC Season 5, Episode 9, Part 2. We'll talk to you guys really soon.